We're on to week 2, and it's time to whiteboard the Detroit Lions. Ben Johnson's return to Ford Field in Detroit, noon Central start. I'm not going to talk too much about gambling in these, but the Lions are now a 6-point favorite. It moved from 4.5. All right, a year ago, my lock of the entire year before the season even started was that the Bears would cover a 4-point spread in Detroit on Thanksgiving. By the time that game came around, I don't even remember what it was, but it was way higher because the Lions went on to win 15 games. The Bears were in the middle of a 10-game losing streak. Their head coach got fired right after the game, and despite all that, the Bears still covered that 4-point spread in that game. So the point is, if the Lions got worse, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, and the Bears got better, I don't understand why this is 6 points. That seems too high to me. Regardless, we'll move on. Lions started 0-1 just like the Bears. Both of these teams need a victory this Sunday. Lions losing 27-13 in a game that really wasn't that close at Lambeau Field last week. They did not score a touchdown until the final minute of the game. So a lot of concerns about the Lions offense right now. 2 new coordinators, we're going to talk about that. And just like the Bears, they had to remake the interior of their offensive line, but for different reasons, which is important. Head coach Dan Campbell going into year 5, 39-29-1, and the 2 new coordinators. John Morton comes in from Denver, where he was the passing game coordinator. It's his first year, but he was on Detroit's staff in 2022 when Ben Johnson put in this offense. So he is familiar with it. That's important. Here's the thing, though, about Morton, who's been in the league for a long time, been a coach for a long time, doesn't have a whole lot of play calling experience. Last time he was an offensive coordinator was in 2017 with the New York Jets. It's the only time he's been an OC in the NFL, and he got fired. Before that, his only other offensive coordinator job was with USC back when Pete Carroll was the head coach. So there's a little bit of a lack of experience in calling plays, which could be a theme here for the Lions early on in the season. Kelvin Shepard's their DC. It's his first year because Aaron Glenn moved on to New York, but he's been on staff. This is his first year. He's been there as long as Dan Campbell's been there, so he got promoted from within. First time being a DC, but he knows the defense really well. Dave Phipps, the special teams coordinator, 5th year, longtime Eagles special teams coordinator. Before that, he knows what he's doing. Your special teams note of the week, punter Jack Fox. 46.2 net last year. That was an NFL record. Bears special teams were a big problem last week. Lions probably have an advantage this week when it comes to special teams. All right, in terms of new players on the Lions, DJ Reed was their big offseason acquisition. In terms of free agency, they added Roy Lopez for depth on the defensive line, Avonte Maddox in the secondary as well. But really, other than Reed, it's their draft picks that matter here. Tyleek Williams, starting at defensive tackle, first-round pick. Tate Ratledge, starting at right guard, second-round pick. And Isaac Teslaw, third-round pick, who scored a touchdown last week. Still not really considered a starter, but when they go to 4 wide receivers, you're going to see Teslaw on the field. And honestly, they should probably work him in a little bit more this week than he played last week because he scored. Otherwise, who they lost, and this is the big story. They lose Carlton Davis in their secondary. Zadarius Smith. Kevin Zeitler, though, right guard, moves on to Tennessee, and Frank Ragnow, who retired. That's why the interior of this offensive line is different. So whereas the Bears beefed up the interior of the offensive line, the Vikings did the same thing. This remade interior offensive line is really just out of necessity because of the guys they lost. And it was a problem last week in Green Bay. This week I'm going to start with the Detroit offense versus the Bears defense. I think this is honestly the more interesting matchup. So let's go back to John Morton. What was his Lions offense going to look like without Ben Johnson? Were they going to radically change the scheme? No. A lot of the personnel's all the same? Yes, especially the weapons. But I wonder if there's going to be a little bit of an identity crisis early on in the season. So last week was bad. Their expected points added per play, 22nd in the league. This offense was first under Ben Johnson the last 3 years. So that's a huge drop back. Yes, small sample size, 1 week, but this is an offense that's used to being the best in the league, 22nd last week. Morton's known for being more of a drop back guy, so that creates some fair questions about how much motion are they going to use. Well, last week, 30th in the entire league. They were 28th in motion EPA when they did go to motion. And play action, that we know that Ben Johnson ran a lot of play action. He's doing it here with the Bears now. They were 14% play action last week. Again, it's one game, but that was 26th in the league. However, when they did run play action, we know Jared Goff could do it. They were 8th. So they had success when they did it. They just didn't do it a lot. So this is a big departure. Again, 1 week, small sample size, but from what the Lions have been, we got to watch that. Meanwhile, the Bears defense last week, as much as we talk about Dennis Allen blitzing, he only did it 23% of the time in that game against the Vikings. That was 23rd in the league. The Bears were first in pressure rate, though. 50% of the time they created some pressure. The problem is their EPA, when they created pressure, was 21st. So they were creating pressure, but it wasn't necessarily resulting in negative plays against the Vikings. So I think that goes back to the idea of finishing. They didn't finish the game. They didn't finish a lot of those reps either. Overall, though, Bears defense played pretty well. Their EPA per play was 8th in the league last week. In terms of what we want to look at matchup-wise, I'm focused on the interior of this offensive line, okay? Grady Jarrett on the injury report with a knee injury. That's concerning. Jalen Johnson, does he come back this week? It seems like he might. TJ Edwards trending up. Kyler Gordon still a big question mark. But on this interior of the offensive line, these guys struggle. Graham Glasgow moved from guard to center. Ratledge and Mahogany are new players here on the interior. They didn't play that well against the Packers. So can Javon Dexter, Grady Jarrett, Andrew Billings, all these guys on the interior, if they win this matchup, Lions struggled to run the ball last week. I think the Bears could have an advantage here, whereas I don't know that it was necessarily an advantage against the new-look Vikings offensive line last week. This is a big issue. The Lions are known for having a good offensive line, but so far, I think it's a big question mark. We move to the other side of the ball. Bears offense versus Detroit's defense. Bears last week, we've talked a lot about it, right? EPA per play, they were 20th. Wasn't overall that great. One good sign, however, this is a league of explosives. And the Bears did have explosives 9% of the time. That was good for 14th, league average. But that's way better than last year. So explosive percentage plays could be up. Motion-wise, 50% of the time they used motion. You would think it would probably actually be more than that. That was only 20th. I think that's an indictment of how much motion's being used in the league these days. Play action percentage, they did it about 23% of the time. That was 16th in the league last week. Again, these are all just 1 week sample sizes. Under center half the time, that was 3rd most. So keep that in mind. Bears going under center a lot. How does Caleb Williams handle it? Still a question mark. And they were in 12 personnel with 2 tight ends 39% of the time. That was 5th in the league. So those are numbers we expected. More under center, more 12 personnel, but the Bears need to get more success out of that. Lions defense, as much as they're getting talked about their offense struggling without Ben Johnson last week, the defense was bad last week. 29th in EPA per play. They gave up explosive plays 14% of the time, almost 15% of the time. That was 29th in the league. So there could be opportunities here for the Bears to continue to get explosive plays against this Lions defense. Kelvin Shepard, honestly, locally in Detroit, probably under as much fire as John Morton in the first week of the season, and he probably should be. They were 30th against the pass last week, 18th against the run, so they're a little bit better stopping the run than they were stopping the pass. That's important because the Bears got to get the run game going. In terms of the matchup I'm watching over here, Rome Odunze brought this up yesterday when he talked to the media. He's going up against Arnold, the second-year corner. And Arnold was dealing with a groin injury, so is he 100%? He was full go on the injury report yesterday, so he's expected to play and all that. But Rome Odunze, good first week, fantasy-wise too. See if the Bears can keep that Caleb Williams to Rome Odunze connection going. Otherwise, other injuries, Jack Campbell, he did not practice yesterday with an ankle. We need to watch that one. Otherwise, much healthier on this side of the ball. Do wonder about DJ Moore. I don't have him circled in red because he was full go in practice, but he did have that big hit against them, and he was listed with an abdomen and groin injury on the injury report, but full go. So he should be fine. Just maybe keep an eye on him in the game. There's your whiteboard look at the Detroit Lions in Week 2. And again, shout out to my wife. It is her birthday. Happy birthday, Krista. And she does a great job.